This is Eric Hernandez, on behalf of the Rabblecast, once again here at Legends of the Ring, talking with Val Venis. Val, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, man. Pleasure to be here.
Great honor to have you sit down with us and have a few minutes. Are you enjoying your time here? I mean, I've been asking everybody, so I feel like a broken record now, but are you enjoying your time here at the Legends of the Ring convention?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a phenomenal event. You know, you get to see guys you haven't seen in years. You get to see other guys that maybe you've been bouncing around on the road with here and there, and you get to hang out with them finally in one spot where you can do your job and then go and eat and still stay in the same town without having to worry about going to the next town. So, yeah, it's just been a good time.
Now, a lot of the guys come in and they either are here specifically for the convention or here. Last night they had a show with Vince Russo doing U-Shoot segment. Were you here for that at all last night?
No, I wasn't.
So you just came specifically for the convention?
Yes, I did.
And do you have any other shows going on this weekend possibly?
Yes, we do. We have one, I'm trying to think where it is now. Somewhere here in New York.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of the area, but yeah.
Now, you're a very memorable character from WWF and WWE.
Mm-hmm.
You were at a time where they were willing to push the envelope, where they were willing to go that much closer to, well, being mature.
Right.
Is there anything that you miss from that time period, that era?
Yeah, you know, I really miss the energy that we felt from the fans in that era. I mean, the stuff we were doing, some of it was shocking. You know, when you consider the fact that many people will say, well, the Attitude Era was really an envelope-pushing era. It really was. And so there were shocking things in there. There were things that people would tune into Raw just to see not only what might happen next that would make them go, whoa, but also what might be said. You know, so it was definitely an era that had people on the edges of their seats wondering constantly what was going to happen, what was going to be said next.
I remember specifically, and this is probably like reaching back for a while, when they started doing the whole Kai and Tai gimmick, and they had you pretty much running from, I don't want to say the Yakuza, but it was a bunch of the Asian guys were coming after you, and they actually strung you up and were ready to bring the sword down. I believe it's on the Best of Raw.
They were going to create a Japanese delicacy, and it was basically a sushi.
I remember this only because if you watch the DVD, you don't get the full effect, but you had you were saved last minute.
Yes.
When the sword was brought up and before it was brought down. It just seemed like an odd moment, but again, it just shows you how far they were willing to push.
Now, do you remember how I was saved?
John Bobbitt came in and saved you.
John Wayne Bobbitt.
Yeah.
Came in and flipped the lights off, and the son of a bitch missed.
I'm sitting there watching this, and when the lights came back on, it's just, again, you're saying shock and amaze. At that time, it was not something you were expecting.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's basically what the Attitude Era was all about. You know, you could always expect the unexpected. Absolutely.
Now, aside from WWE, WWF, you also went overseas. Now, what companies did you work for out there?
I worked for New Japan Pro Wrestling. We did the Hulkamania tour of Australia.
Yes.
We were there for a couple of weeks. That was a lot of fun. Other than that, you know, we've just done a few independents here and there. I'm becoming more politically active now, so I'm kind of transitioning, you know, away from wrestling. Of course, I'll always still want to perform, you know, at some point in time. Again, you know, on single shows. You know, obviously definitely not a full-time schedule anymore. But yeah, political activism is really, it's something I've always been passionate about, and I knew I was going to eventually move into that direction after wrestling, and so I'm starting that process now.
Really? Anything in particular that you're...
Oh, where do I begin? I'm a hardcore Ron Paul supporter, very much a libertarian. It's kind of weird for me to say that I'm supporting Ron Paul when I am a libertarian. And many people ask me, well, why don't you support Gary Johnson, who now is the presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party? Well, the reality is, obviously I would love to, and I would if Ron Paul wasn't in the race. Ron Paul is a libertarian.
Okay.
But he has 20-plus years in Congress with a voting record to prove that he is always going to vote on the side of freedom and liberty every single time. He can't be bought. He can't be bought by lobbyists. He can't be persuaded or conned by other congressmen. They call him Dr. No for a reason. You get two congressmen that are looking after each other's interests and not America's interests. So they'll say, hey man, you write up I've got this bill I want to get passed. If you give me a guaranteed yes on this one, you haven't even read it. You give me a guaranteed yes on this, and whatever bill you write up next, I don't even know what you're going to write up next. Whatever bill you write up next, I'll give you a guaranteed yes. We're rubbing each other's back. These things could be completely unconstitutional, but we've guaranteed each other's yes just so we can push our agendas. Ron Paul, the reason they call him Dr. No is because the congressman used to come up to him and say, hey, can I get a yes vote on this bill from you, and I'll guarantee whatever you write up next, you got my yes vote. He'll take the bill. He'll read it. He'll put it down. He'll pick up the Constitution. He'll read it. Then he'll put the Constitution down, look the congressman right in the eye, and you'll say, nope, unconstitutional, get out.
That's a very good way to put that.
And we're talking 20-plus years of him doing this, earning the reputation as Dr. No. And then we wonder why, he's not what mainstream media pushes to be the presidential candidate. This guy's a rock star in every town and city he goes to, compared to Romney. Romney rents out a field at the University of Michigan Stadium, expects to fill all the stands. He gets 500 people in the middle of the stadium. You look at Ron Paul, rents out a 3,500-seat arena. They have to close that one down when the tickets go on sale and move it over to the arena and move it over to the stadium and sells out the stadium. So you got a guy with rock star status that can sell out every town and city that he goes to when he comes there to campaign, yet mainstream media is just not there. They're constantly pushing Romney. So it just, it's stuff like this that I think more and more people are becoming involved, and that's exactly where I'm headed. I like to see that, and I'm happy for that. The fact that people are waking up even without mainstream media. Okay. And so I want to be more of a part of pushing freedom and liberty in America rather than going towards more governmental control.
Had you not actually mentioned that, I would never have guessed, because you just see the character on TV. You see the character that's portrayed, and you don't see sometimes the personal feelings or personal, I don't want to say agendas, but your own views. So that's really interesting to hear that. It's kind of a sense you want to say that you kind of traded one politics for another.
You could say that, yes, absolutely. And I go back to my old employer. Some people will, why are you bashing your old employer? I'm not bashing WWE per se. I mean, Vince McMahon, I admire the guy. The guy has an incredible business sense. I look to him when it comes to developing products or services. I would look to him for leadership and try to follow. I mean, he's already done it. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's become incredibly successful with a big company. He's built it, and it's amazing to see. What I do have a problem with is when WWE, in their own best interest, supports a bill like SOPA, which obviously got shut down with the backlash. I don't know if you remember when Google had a blackout, Craigslist had a blackout that one day. That was against SOPA. Yet WWE, as a company, not necessarily Vince McMahon, because I don't know where Vince McMahon stands on that, but as a company, they signed on to support SOPA. Now that that's put aside, I knew it was just a matter of time before they came out with SOPA repackaged, which they've done. Now they have CISPA. I'm right now in the process of trying to figure out for myself whether WWE is signed on to support that bill. I think they probably would, and that's something I'm completely against. But that's not speaking out against Vince McMahon or his business. That's speaking out against a corporation that is supporting a tyrannical piece of legislation, completely tyrannical. Change the internet forever if that gets passed.
I agree. You actually are affording a very interesting opportunity here. With Linda McMahon trying to run in politics, and you have WWE itself, not so much Vince McMahon, but WWE now trying to more or less reform themselves so that if they try to use the WWE as a weak target for Linda McMahon, do you think that's right to try to support Linda in that respect? Should they be two completely separate entities? Like even her opponents who take the cheap shots and saying that you work for a company that demeans women and have men bullying each other on television.
I think, and I understand politically.
Yes.
I understand Linda and her campaign to try and separate and create a separation between WWE and her political, or maybe future political career. And I can understand that completely, but I think they're missing an opportunity to not only excel in her political career, which I don't support. everything she does. But that's a different story. I like Linda McMahon. She's a great person. But politically, I can't support her.
Different story.
But if you're talking strategy, I think they would be missing an opportunity to not only publicly be able to change the, I guess you could say, the image of WWE in some people's eyes. For example, you would get Elliot Spitzer, maybe, for example. We'll take him for an example. And he'll say, oh, he demeans women, and look at this clip of him making Trish Stratus get down on her knees and bark like a dog. Well, there's a perfect opportunity to go, yeah, we do that, and watch this clip. And a few weeks later, when you watch Trish Stratus giving it all back to Vince McMahon, but Elliot Spitzer's campaign will never show you that.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So you can say that's entertainment, and this is what we do. And this is politics, this is real life, this is the stuff that affects each and every one of you. So let's not focus on entertainment, and let's focus on what we can do for you. Now, what she can do for people, I don't necessarily agree with, but that's a different story.
I believe it was recently with Chris Jericho. I don't know if you heard, had the incident in Brazil.
Yes.
Where he kicked the flag and was almost arrested for it, and was given the option of either apologizing or doing some jail time. There was a lot of outcry because of that, and one of the messages I remember specifically was Shawn Michaels on Twitter saying, you know, I stand behind Jericho 100% every day, all day, twice on Sunday. What does the E in WWE stand for anyway? And exactly. That right there alone says it's just entertainment. Mm-hmm. And people, obviously, in different countries, in different markets, you're not entirely sure what the laws and legalities are, and he just didn't know. Kicking the flag would get him into that much trouble, but again, it's the entertainment. People try to focus so much on that one when there's other things in the world going on.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I'll even take it one step further. I don't know if you read any of my tweets on that. I sent out a couple a little later on.
Okay.
Because I didn't really find out about it until I was busy doing other things. And it was about almost a week later, maybe a little bit more, that I found out about it. And the one thing that I firmly believe is a law against desecrating any kind of flag, whether it's kicking it, wiping your butt with it, or crumpling it up and throwing it, whatever. It's a piece of material with colors painted on it. Now, if it's your flag, you paid for it with your justly acquired wealth, that's your property. Mm-hmm. If I just rip that out of your hand and throw it, well, I've committed a crime. I've basically stolen your property.
Yes.
Okay? That's a real crime. I've violated your right to property. You have three rights: rights of life, liberty, and property. Anytime any one of those three rights are violated, you've committed a real crime. And so when I see a country, well, even in America or Canada, but this instance, it happened in Brazil, and all he did was, from what I understood, was roll it up and kick it or something, whatever it was, and was threatened with arrest. That law, just in and of itself, is incredibly tyrannical and oppressive in nature. You can, and what else? Well, we have to make it a law because it's offensive to the Brazilian people. If you want to live in freedom, you don't have a right not to be offended. Show me in the Constitution of the United States where you have a right not to be offended. If you're offended, has anyone's right to life, liberty, or property been violated? No. So no real crime's been committed. Right? It's a stupid law. It's oppressive, it's tyrannical, and it's a law that people who want to control others, like dictators,
yes,
love. They love those kind of laws, and it's incredibly, and the fact that he was threatened with jail or apologize is, I would have gone to jail. I would have said, I'm going to apologize.
Thank you.
Screw you. Throw my ass in jail. You know what I mean? What are they going to do? Throw me in life, or throw me in life in jail for throwing a flag?
This past week, we're actually on our show, we were talking about with my co-host, and I said if it was a different time, it would have been the best interest in everybody, for the company and for him, to do the jail time, do a little jail time, and go and say, you know what, I'll do the jail time, because he would be getting that reaction. He'd be the heel. He'd now be an international lawbreaker, and WWE could use that to their best ability. But
absolutely.
Now it's a different time. Now he's got his tour coming up with his band. He's got money he's got to worry about. He's got a limited time left on his possible, career as far as a wrestler. So now it's a different thing he has to consider altogether. So, but on the other side of it, I also recall Shawn Michaels at ringside while there was a match on Monday Night Raw where there was the Hart Dynasty taking on DX, and there's Shawn Michaels parading around the ringside with the Canadian flag shoved up his nose.
Yes, I recall that.
nobody got offended. Nobody got upset over here.
Yeah, there were a few people that did get offended, but they were in the minority. And still, majority of people here understand freedom and liberty, you know. And so, but still, we've had times where there's been bills that have been passed that that make a law that would make it illegal to desecrate a flag in any way, shape, or form. Mind you, they don't pass, but just the fact that they come to the floor anyway is scary in and of itself. Who in the heck is writing up these bills? It's amazing to me, and it's 2 words: tyranny, oppression. That's all that is, plain and simple.
Well, you said it before with the, I rub your back, you rub my back. Once that becomes the general practice of any kind of politics or any kind of rulemaking, the corruption is just going to run rampant. So.
Oh, absolutely. They don't vote to support freedom and liberty. They vote to help their friends under the guise of helping the people, and in turn, they just completely ignore the Constitution.
Now, having this opportunity to talk with you, I would be at a loss if I didn't ask you, through the different characters and gimmicks that you've had in your career, what really stood out the most for you? I mean, Val Venis, you were the supposed porn star going around with the ladies. I mean, once your music hit, everybody who knew who you were. Then again, you come around to when you did the Censor and everything else, and it just became a different aspect altogether.
Yeah. I wasn't a big fan of Right to Censor. I did give it a shot, but I definitely wasn't a big fan of it. And I think it goes back to having fun when you're out there performing. I wasn't having fun at all in the Right to Censor. I mean, with the guys I was working with, yeah, it was fun. But as far as the storyline itself and the direction we were going in, the storylines that we were being injected into on the sides as well, I mean, to me, it wasn't fun. And, it became a job then, rather than a passion and a career. Really, I mean, that's the best way to describe it.
The difference between going out and being told what to do or going out and enjoying a character that you're just performing.
If you enjoy what you're doing, you're going to make that character so much more entertaining to the fans. You're going to make it so much more of a viable character that the fans can bite into and latch on to you and become even a bigger fan of you. If you're not having fun, the fans aren't stupid. They see that. They feel that. They hear that. And so... the fans completely understood that we were doing our best, but I don't think any of us are really having fun being the Right to Censor.
I got you. Are there any other upcoming projects that you have going on?
Well, we're in Arizona. We're fighting to legalize marijuana straight across the board. One day I want to have the freedom to be able to open up a cannabis cafe, and once I get one open, maybe even start a chain of them in every big city. Not just in America, Canada, Mexico. Maybe go over the world. Something like Starbucks, maybe like a Hard Rock Cafe, but a cannabis cafe. You can come in, you can choose from different strains from all over the world, different coffees from around the world, different teas from around the world. You can order sodas, pastries. Go in, and it's just a recreational, social setting. You can sit around, you can talk with your friends, smoke good ganja, and drink good coffee or sodas, whatever. You know what I mean? It's just a nice social setting.
Kick back and relax.
Yeah, and why it remains illegal is prohibition on the cannabis plant in America is one of the most tyrannical, stupid, brain-dead, and moronic and oppressive laws that America has ever created. Plain and simple. Not one death. In 5,000 years of recorded use, not one single death. And there's a huge problem in America when I can walk into a supermarket, buy a 40-ouncer of tequila, suck that thing back in under 5 minutes, and die of alcohol poisoning tonight, and not break one single law. But God forbid you roll up a marijuana cigarette and you're a criminal. Come on. And now we're finding out that the cannabinoids, the newly discovered cannabinoids in cannabis, when given in high doses, which you can't get the high enough doses when you smoke it, smoking's recreational, but creating it into a paste is curing cancer left, right, and center. They've known since 1974, which I just recently found out. Nixon's known since 1974 that this stuff cures cancer completely. Incurable brain cancers, breast cancers, bladder cancers. It's incredible what we're learning about these different cannabinoids now. And the fact that we've had prohibition on this plant and has completely stopped any federal funding for research, that we would have found this out decades ago. We're going back to the 1960s, 50s. We would have found this out a long time ago. How many lives could have been saved?
Yeah.
I mean, it's genocide. They've known since 1974. And Nixon ripped up the University of Virginia, funded a study so he could prove to the American people that he needed this war on marijuana because he was getting a little bit of backlash from it.
Okay.
So before the next election, he wanted a study done so he could prove to the American people that it lowers your immune system, causes cancer. Well, he got the preliminary report at 6 months. Enhances your immune system, non-toxic, cures incurable brain cancer, breast cancer, all this different stuff. He looked up at his handlers. Is this for real? It's for real. Shredded up the report, pulled their funding, ended the study, and we never heard of it again until the year 2000 when the University of Madrid replicated the study.
Oh, wow.
And that was, I mean, that's barely ever reported. It was reported in the Associated Press, one little blurb. So as far as I'm concerned, Nixon is guilty of genocide, and so is every other politician that has supported the prohibition of cannabis. Guilty of genocide, plain and simple.
Hey, I learned something new because I knew about the newer studies. I didn't realize had been dated that far back.
I didn't realize that until just recently as well. I thought they just found that out in the year 2000 at the University of Madrid. Now, when you come out with a huge press conference and you have the cure for cancers, all kinds of different cancers, the cure for it, you think all the news agencies from all around the world are going to be there to hit your news conference. It was the Associated Press. One little blurb on their website, and you never saw it again after the first day. You see, of course, you hear it on documentaries on YouTube and things like that.
Yeah.
But now they're trying to pass CISPA. If that ever gets passed, they'll squash that noise too.
Yeah, of course.
And so it's genocide. Any politician that puts their stamp on continuing the prohibition of cannabis is guilty, whether we can throw them in jail or not. Obviously we can't, but they should be, is guilty of genocide as far as I'm concerned.
No argument on that one, so that sounds sound to me.
I mean, you look at the drug companies are giving huge campaign donations to these politicians. You can't grow chemotherapy drugs in your backyard. You have to pay a premium price for the drug companies to create them and sell them.
How else are they going to, get the funding and the money and everything else back? Once they find a way to monetize it, then...
Well, the thing is, they can't. You can take your own seeds, throw it in the backyard. It's going to grow. It's a weed. It just grows, and it grows naturally, and it's easy to process. You run it through alcohol, and then evaporate it. So, I mean, you're not going to pay a premium on pharmaceutical processed THC oil when you can just do it in your backyard for pennies. Right? So there's no profit in it for them, which I understand. But here we go with, okay, what's right and what's not. They're looking at profit potential, and I'm a libertarian. I'm all for profit potential. All for it. I'm not for keeping people in the dark and letting people die to maintain profit potential. Genocide. Pure, unadulterated genocide.
I don't want to take up too much more of your time. You're on Twitter, you said?
Yes.
Do you have your account name?
Yes, it's Val Venis, E-N, as in Nancy, E-N-T. Val Venis, E-N-T.
All right, make sure you follow there. Val, thank you very much for your time. Very much appreciated.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here.
We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, man.